We talk about the ruthlessness of the Philadelphia Police Department. Charges against the man were dismissed by a Philadelphia judge. Immediately after that, a Philadelphia police officer escorted him into ICE custody. Tyrone Bowman live. According to the Philadelphia Inquirer, after a judge dismissed criminal charges against a Dominican national, a police officer notified court staff there was another warrant for the defendant's arrest, according to a court spokesperson. Philadelphia, you better get ready because the invasion of ICE is about to take place. Everything that's going on in California, it's going to take place in Philadelphia and every democratic city within the nation. A Philadelphia police officer escorted a Dominican national out of Philadelphia's criminal courthouse and into the custody of U.S. immigration authorities last week, shortly after a judge had dismissed all criminal charges against the defendant. The Defender Association of Philadelphia and other advocates questioned what the apparent cooperation with immigration and customs enforcement meant for Philadelphia's so-called sanctuary city policies. Nothing. Those sanctuary city policies are going to be thrown out the door under the mantra of law and order. Jean Carlos Brito Manuz, who's 30, was arrested on April 2nd for allegedly carrying a concealed firearm without a license in the city of Janita section, according to police and court records. But Municipal Court Judge Bradley K. Moss dismissed the felony charge on April 17th for lack of evidence. At the time, Brito Manuz would have been free to go. Instead, a Philadelphia police officer in the courtroom informed court staff and sheriff's deputies that Brito Manuz was wanted on another arrest warrant, said Brendan Kennedy, spokesperson for the 1st Judicial District. According to Brito Manuz's public defender, a sheriff and a court staffer instructed Brito Manuz to remain in the courtroom. The defendant instructed her client to leave. The police officer then stepped in and escorted Brito Manuz outside to awaiting federal authorities. He remains in immigration detention at the Federal Detention Center in Philadelphia. A police department spokesperson, Eric Grip, said that the Spanish-speaking officer offered to walk with Brito Manuz downstairs for transportation purposes, but did not detain him. Grip said that Brito Manuz surrendered on his own. The department did not immediately complain or explain where the officer was assigned, what he was doing in the courtroom that day, or why he alerted other officials in the courtroom. A person with knowledge of the situation said the officer was detained to the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency, which has been working with ICE in other jurisdictions. That source was not authorized to discuss the matter and spoke on the condition of anonymity. It was at least the third time in recent months that ICE agents detained someone outside the city courthouse, which was long viewed as off limits for federal immigration and enforcement. That's off the table. But the previous arrest did not appear to involve assistance by Philadelphia police. Under executive orders dating back to the administration of Mayor Jim Kenney, law enforcement officers were instructed not to honor ICE detainers, and the city terminated ICE access to the police arrest database. Grips said ICE does not have access to Philadelphia police internet records or databases, but noted that court dockets are public. State Representative Danilo Burgos, who represents parts of North Philadelphia, said fears have increased in recent months about ICE encounters around courthouses. It is very disturbing, said Burgos, a Democrat, who was the first Dominican legislator elected to the Pennsylvania General Assembly. The incident raises questions about Philadelphia's relationship with ICE amid the Trump administration's crackdown on undocumented immigrants. Mayor Sherrell L. Parker has not explicitly reaffirmed Philly's commitment as a sanctuary city, but neither has she revoked the executive orders. Quote, if they are sharing information, they're going to contrary to what city officials are saying. Burgos said. They're sharing information. Don't you believe a word of it? How else would they know he was there? Because they were alerted. You think I'm going to believe the word of these people who work for the government? You must be crazy. I'm a criminal justice major and a former inmate on the road to becoming a defense attorney. I know the ins and outs of the Department of Corrections. I know the ins and outs of how prisons work. I've been there up close and personal. I know how SEALs think, work, act, and behave. You darn right I'm going to advocate for people. Yes, I am. I'm not going to forget about those who are left behind. I'm going to fight for them because it's the right thing to do. Guidelines adopted by the First Judicial District in February and obtained by the Inquirer emphasized that while staffers could share information with ICE, now listen to this double talk, they did not need to assist them without a judicial warrant or court order. That's double talk. Anti-semantics. Lemons, lemonade. The memos issued in response to a newly issued ICE directive expanding courthouse enforcement actions stated it was best practice not to inquire about a defendant's immigration status, but did not prohibit voluntary sharing of information with ICE. A spokesperson for the sheriff declined to comment on Brito Manuna's arrest, but said, the officer's policy is to detain anyone subject to an active warrant, including in collaboration with other agencies. An ICE spokesperson did not respond to a request for a comment. Brito Manuna had no prior criminal record in Pennsylvania, though he did have a summary citation in traffic court for driving without a license in April 2024. According to the Defenders Association, he lives with his family in Massachusetts, but as a child in Philadelphia. Who are the biggest breakers of the law? Who commit the most crimes and cover them up and try to get away with them? Regardless of what has happened in Menounos' case, it is clear that information has been flowing between local police and federal law enforcement. Sources of deportation cases filed in the U.S. Eastern District of Pennsylvania in recent years followed a pattern. First, a person is arrested by the Philadelphia Police Department or another local department for offenses ranging from drunken driving to drug dealing to assault. Then police run the defendant's fingerprints to a federal database. If the person has previously been deported, that automatically pings ICE according to court paperwork. In other cases, ICE agents make arrests in the field while serving on a joint drug task force in collaboration with the Philadelphia's police or the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office, using portable fingerprints, scanners to immediately identify those who had previously been deported according to court records. The Inquirer could not immediately verify whether Brito Manus had been previously deported. Attempts to locate his family were not successful. It is unclear how often arrests are being made around Philadelphia courts. In March, agents picked up a man outside the Criminal Justice Center while advocates from the group Wantos shot video and tried to intervene. Last October, they stopped a Mexican national on the way to court in Philadelphia for a hearing for an assault case, according to an affidavit filed in the case. In a social media post in March, Quantos raised questions about how ICE was accessing information about his clients and accused them of, quote, flagrant disregard for due process, end quote. Man, y'all can forget about due process. That stuff is off the table. Burgos said such enforcement could deter undocumented people from responding to court summonses to resolve criminal and civil cases. Quote, some of these people are going to court because they want to cooperate, he said. It's going to make our city less safe. Tyrone Bowman, thank you for watching. Thank you for commenting. Never surrender. Never quit.